Trinidad and Tobago's controversial anti-terrorism legislation is passed unanimously. That's our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, July 3. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Nicole Best. Good evening. Despite concerns raised by the opposition in Trinidad and Tobago, the controversial Anti-Terrorism Amendment Bill 2018 was unanimously passed in the House of Representatives on Tuesday. The bill, which was given the green light with amendments, required a 3/5 majority to pass, but not one of the 35 members of the House voted against it or abstained from the vote. Attorney General Faris Alwari had warned that if the legislation was not passed, the Twin Island Republic would face sanctions from 190 countries related to correspondent banking and brokering, which would affect the economy. Opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar had signaled on Monday night that the opposition would support the bill only if certain amendments were made to the legislation. And Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley had contended that the opposition had no intention of supporting the bill. But on Tuesday, when the House resumed the final committee stages discussion of the bill, Persad-Bissessar said while the opposition wants to fight terrorism, it must be balanced against human rights. The anti-terrorism bill seeks to criminalize terrorism and the financing of terrorism to provide for detection, prevention, prosecution, conviction and punishment of terrorist activities and the confiscation of forfeiture and the seizure of terrorist assets. Jamaica's Prime Minister Andrew Holness has stripped embattled Minister of Science, Energy and Technology Dr. Andrew Wheatley of the energy portfolio in the wake of reports of corruption and mismanagement at the state-owned oil refinery Petrojam. The energy portfolio will be transferred to the office of the Prime Minister effective Wednesday. A statement issued late Monday following a cabinet meeting said the decision was made after talks with Wheatley, who agreed with the Prime Minister that the transfer would be done in the interest of transparency. The development follows mounting calls for Wheatley to be fired amid concerns about questionable spending and allegations of breach of government's procurement guidelines at Petrojam. Wheatley is expected to answer some key questions on the issue in Parliament. We get more in this report.
Portfolios. The Office of the Prime Minister says the portfolio transfer was made in the interest of transparency in light of ongoing investigations into the refinery's operations. Following Cabinet's review of a report from Petrojam, it was agreed that the oil refinery requires a strategic and management review of its operations. A look at Petrojam's long-term commercial viability and role in Jamaica's energy security will also be undertaken. Resulting from the issues at Petrojam, the Ministry of Finance has also been instructed to develop uniformed regulations for public bodies relating to donations and corporate social responsibility. Public bodies will be prohibited from entering into sole source retainer contracts without the prior approval of Cabinet. Overseas travel of board chairmen or board members must receive prior approval of the minister. And the residential status of all persons nominated to boards must be stated in the Cabinet submission seeking approval for their appointment.
The St. Lucia government has denied that it has agreed to subsidize the operations of regional airline Liat. It was Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown who was reported as saying that St. Lucia and Grenada had agreed to contribute to the operations of the carrier, which is based in the Twin Island nation. But in a statement issued on Tuesday, St. Lucia Prime Minister Alan Chassanet said the agreement was for his government to participate in a meeting to discuss some of the issues related to the airline. He said his government remains consistent in its position that Liat should operate on a strictly commercial basis. Chassanet added that St. Lucia remains committed to seeing the necessary restructuring and some real change in the airline's operations, but maintained that they have not yet made a decision on the subsidizing of the airline. The Antigua and Barbuda government has responded to the unrest on the sister isle of Barbuda, which saw a 5-hour standoff between residents and the police over the weekend. Agriculture and Fisheries Minister Dean Jonas, who also has responsibility for Barbuda affairs, says the ministry is dissatisfied with the way the fisheries complex on Barbuda is being run and government has decided to take over its management. On Sunday, scores of Barbudans faced off with police over access to the fisheries complex, refusing to hand over the building's keys. The complex has been serving as accommodation for police officers in Barbuda since September last year, following the passage of Hurricane Maria, which decimated the small island of just over 500 people. Barbuda Council is arguing that with the opening of the lobster season, they need to have the building vacated so it can be returned to its rightful purpose. But Jonas says the issue is deeper than that. He says it's about management and respect for authority. We get more in this report from Jessica Russell of ABS Television.
Minister Jonas says a number of issues are at play that prompted the decision to take control of the keys of the building. He says a few weeks ago he met with the Barbuda MP, the Honourable Trevor Walker, and a few council members. Minister Jonas says in that meeting he expressed his pleasure with how the fisheries complex was being managed by Doug Beezer. According to Minister Jonas, Beezer is Walker's brother.
Many times the Director of Fisheries, Ms. Cheryl Appleton, or the Chief Fisheries Officer, if you want to call it that, a proper name, goes over to Barbuda to do inspections and whatever she normally does with the other facilities, because we have quite a few fisheries facilities across the country. And he would completely ignore her. He would not respond to her emails, her phone calls, or anything like that. So I told Ms. Appleton, look, you're just going to have to get somebody else to manage that facility in Barbuda. It's not up to the council, it's up to the Ministry of Fisheries.
The minister also says it is necessary that the complex is properly managed so the Chief Fisheries Officer can do her job. He says she is currently working to ensure the facility meets guidelines to engage in the export of seafood.
We are not going to tolerate a situation where the manager or supervisor of the facility is thinking that he can ignore the Chief Fisheries Officer, who is the Director of Fisheries, or this ministry. And so we will be taking full control of the facility to ensure that it is properly managed according to the standards that we expect in Antigua and Barbuda.
The minister also says the Barbuda Council issuing instruction to police officers occupying the building was also a cause for contention.
I heard recently that the council had indicated to the police that they had to leave. They were giving instructions to the police, which is totally inappropriate in my view. The police don't take instructions from the Barbuda Council. And so to tell the police or demand that the police leave the facility is totally out of their sphere of influence.
Minister Jonas says control of the Barbuda Fisheries Complex will rest with the Chief Fisheries Officer, regardless of whether the keys are handed over.
If somebody hand over the keys to your house who had it for a year, are you going to feel secure in your house? I don't think so. So at the end of the day, Ms. Appleton will know how to handle this situation, but I don't believe whether or not they hand over the keys is going to be quite irrelevant. We are taking charge of the property, and it has to be secured.
Minister Jonas says Antigua and Barbuda only has one government, and the council answers to that government.
The Grenada government on Tuesday launched its advisory committee tasked with the education and awareness campaign for a second referendum aimed at making the Caribbean Court of Justice the island's final appellate court. In the first referendum in 2016, the country rejected the bill to transition from the London-based Privy Council to the CCJ. But since then, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell has been advocating for a revisit of the discussion and a second referendum on the matter. Dr. Lawrence Joseph is the chair of the committee. He says Grenadians stand to benefit greatly from the appellate jurisdiction of the CCJ.
The court will be more accessible to the general public. The headquarters is based in Port of Spain and Trinidad. And besides the short distance between Grenada and Trinidad, applications can be made electronically to that court. That court is an itinerant court in the sense that it can go to different countries. The court itself can leave Trinidad and Tobago and go to different countries to hear matters. And it can also try matters urgently within a matter of a few days, which we have had example of in the case of Eddie Ventos versus the Chief Elections Officer of Barbados quite recently.
Recent reports in the regional media indicated that both Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda will be holding their CCJ referendum on the 6th of November this year. But Joseph said while there is coordination between the two countries on the matter, no date has been set for Grenada. Meanwhile, Acting Prime Minister Gregory Bowen has challenged the committee to communicate the CCJ awareness and education campaign in a manner that allows citizens to see the good of the court. Speaking at the press conference to present the members of the committee, Bowen said their task is great.
But you have an extremely important task before you. And we've heard it from the professional standpoint, and many of you there are professional people. But I want to exhort you to really put yourself in the place of the other citizens of Grenada that we refer to as the ordinary man. You will be deciding how information is imparted so that we get an informed citizenry at the polls for voting on this.
The 15 committee members represent churches, the National Women's Organization, the trade union movement, the legal profession, and the main political parties. Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, the education minister in Barbados hints at a ban on corporal punishment in schools. Stay with us. There's more news after the break. Barbados' Minister of Education, Santia Bradshaw, has hinted strongly at the possibility of a ban on corporal punishment in the island's schools. She said corporal punishment was proving to be an ineffective means of disciplining children, and in any event, physical punishment did more harm than good. And the minister revealed there were plans to introduce a new policy on discipline. Speaking at the launch of an anti-violence campaign organized by the ministry and UNICEF, Bradshaw says the essence of discipline is finding effective alternatives to punishment, and the most effective one is providing children with the skills they need for living in harmony with one another. CARICOM leaders have placed the issue of the decriminalization of marijuana high on the agenda of the 39th regular meeting of the Conference of Heads of Government in Jamaica. The three-day conference begins on Wednesday. A regional commission on marijuana has made recommendations for decriminalization across CARICOM member states, but in controlled and regulated amounts, as is the case with alcohol. And the heads say they will consider the report of the commission. The commission conducted a rigorous inquiry into the social, economic, health and legal issues surrounding marijuana use in the Caribbean to determine whether there should be a change in the current drug classification of marijuana, thereby making the drug more accessible for all types of usage. This 39th meeting will receive the recommendations of that inquiry and will decide on the regional position on the way forward. This is in light of the national positions taken by several members, including Antigua and Barbuda, Belize and Jamaica, to initiate action on the issue, and those states where decisions have already been taken to engage in law reform, or those that have already done. At a press conference on Monday, CARICOM Secretary General Ambassador Erwin LaRocque said the report of the Marijuana Commission will be presented to the regional leaders by the chair, Professor Rosemary Bell Antwine of the St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies.
Independent commission comprising of experts in the fields of law, ethics, sociology, psychiatry, medical and social research, and Criminology looked in depth at the social, economic, health, and legal issues surrounding marijuana use and have arrived at recommendations which the heads of government will deliberate on. We'll also be having a presentation on non-communicable diseases as part of our health agenda.
The International Court of Justice, the ICJ, says it must first decide whether it has the power to make a final and legal binding settlement of the border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela before it even begins to hear the case. We get the details in this Newsroom Guyana report.
The International Court of Justice, the ICJ, Tuesday said Guyana has up to November 19th to say why the court has the power to make the legal judgment in the border controversy. Further, it was determined that Venezuela will have up until April 19, 2019 to make a counter-argument. The court was clear that it first needed to determine its jurisdiction to hear the case before proceeding on the actual merits of the case. As such, the court, which is the principal judicial organ of the United Nations, decided on the time limits for the submission of written pleadings. The court issued its decision to first determine the question of jurisdiction following a meeting held pursuant to Article 31 of the Rules of the Court by its president and representatives of Guyana and Venezuela on June 18 last. At the meeting, the ICJ stated that Guyana's Foreign Affairs Minister Carl Greenidge indicated that Guyana wished to have 9 months to prepare its memorial or petition to the court. Ms. Delcy Rodriguez Gomez, the Vice President of Venezuela, stated that her government considered that the court manifestly lacked jurisdiction and that it had decided not to take part in the proceedings. Guyana, in response, stated it wished to proceed with the case, and the order of the ICJ noted the possibility for Venezuela of availing itself of its procedural rights as a party to the case is preserved. The border controversy between Guyana and Venezuela was referred to the ICJ by the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres after his personal representative failed to resolve the controversy after a series of meetings between the two parties.
And ahead in Newsline Sport, FIFA bans the St. Vincent and the Grenadines Football Federation boss from all activities related to the sport. We'll tell you why when we return.
This hurricane tip comes to you compliments the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency and the Caribbean Media Corporation. Ensure that you have a can opener.
The permanent list is a measure that allows government establishments to treat with resource deficiencies by promoting permanent workers and bringing regular workers onto the permanent list. The last permanent list was signed back in 2009. Thursday's signing confirmed the promotion of 560 employees. 320 workers of the development program who previously held no status
Veteran singer Marcia Griffiths is hoping to score with her latest single, Queen of Paradise. The song is produced by the legendary duo of Sly Dunbar and Robbie Shakespeare, Sly and Robbie. In a media release, Marcia said the Queen of Paradise was written by Chronix.
Almighty God, He showed me what I had, He said, stand firm and keep the faith.
World governing body for football, FIFA, has banned St. Vincent and the Grenadines Football Federation boss Venald Combs from all activities related to the sport for 2 years. In a release on Tuesday, FIFA said the ban took immediate effect after investigations revealed that Combs was selling tickets for the 2014 FIFA World Cup at a profiteering markup. Excuse me. In addition to the ban, the adjudicatory chamber of the Independent Ethics Committee fined Combs of $40,000. The release said he had been found guilty of violating FIFA's code of ethics related to bribery and corruption, conflicts of interest and loyalty. FIFA opened its investigation in the Vincentian capital on June 9, 2016, and focused on the resale of tickets for World Cup in Brazil. The chamber analyzed allegations that Mr. Coombs had sold tickets purchased by the SVGFF and by him personally in his capacity as a FIFA Standing Committee member for a profiteering markup. Coombs is the latest Caribbean football official to be sanctioned by FIFA following a number of high-profile cases in recent years. Last year, Antiguan Gordon Derrick, president of the Caribbean Football Union, was banned for 6 years on similar bribery and conflict of interest charges and fined $31,000 US. To cricket, West Indies batting superstar Chris Gayle is set to headline the inaugural Abu Dhabi T20 trophy in October. Gayle is expected to be the biggest drawing card. The left-hander, the most successful T20 batsman of all time, will turn out for Afghan side Boost Defenders, which will be one of 6 teams contesting the October 4 to 6 tournament at the cricket stadium there. He has blasted 2100s. No other batsman has passed 10,000 runs in the T20 format, with New Zealander Brendan McCullum the closest with 9,119 runs. English side Yorkshire Vikings Big Bash franchise Hobart Hurricanes, Lahore Qalandars of the Pakistan Super League and South Africa's multiple Titans will join Boost Defenders, with the final team yet to be announced by organizers. The tournament will be staged by Abu Dhabi Cricket under the umbrella of Abu Dhabi Sports Council and has gained the support of the International Cricket Council, the Emirates Cricket Board. Former world and Olympic champion Kirani James continued his comeback with a record-setting victory as he won the 400 meters on Saturday at the Aliana Pompey Invitational. The Grenadian came home in a new track record time of 44.99 seconds, comfortably dismissing a field lacking any true star quality at the track and field center. Coming off the final turn, James was the clear leader and had no challengers over the last 100 meters. Nigerian Chedi Okizi ran second in 45.97, while Guyanese Winston George, a 2-time Olympian, crossed the line third in 46.13. But there was disappointment for Commonwealth Games triple jump champion Troy Doris, who finished fourth in the event after measuring a disappointing 16.09 meters. American Donald Scott produced a leap of 17.22 meters to win the event ahead of Christian Napoles of Cuba, 16.96 meters, and Suriname's Miguel Van Assen, 16.67 meters. We're switching sport now. Antigua and Barbuda are relishing their second-place finish in the just concluding Caribbean Basketball Confederation Championships, and that took place in Suriname. The Twin Island nation went under to Guyana 80-70 in the finals, and both teams will move on to the FIBA AmeriCup qualifiers in September. In this ABS TV Sport report, we learned why Antigua and Barbuda is quite happy with their second-place finish in the competition.
Senior basketballers accomplished their highest position in the history of the competition, despite losing 83-70 to Guyana in Saturday's final. Minister of Sports Darrell Matthew, who recently resigned as president of the association, witnessed the historic occasion.
It's a statement for all of basketball in Antigua and Barbuda. This year is our 50th anniversary for the Antigua and Barbuda Basketball Association, and so to have achieved our best result ever in our 50th year is really something special. We've achieved bronze a couple of times before, but I think these guys really put their heart on the line. The coaches did a fantastic job. The veterans came out and showed some real leadership. The youngsters stepped up to the plate, and I think it all just came together nicely.
Antigua and Barbuda and Guyana advanced to the home and away qualifying rounds against the likes of Caribbean powerhouses, the Bahamas and Cuba. Matthew viewed this as an exciting time for basketball in the Twin Island state.
For the first time, we will have the opportunity to host home games here in Antigua. I know for sure one of the teams that will be playing home and away games will be Colombia, Paraguay will be one, Cuba will be one, the Bahamas will be one, and the other teams will be determined as we go forward. And so it's really a huge, huge time for Antigua basketball, because as it is now, we are easily one of the smallest countries in the world to be playing at this level.
Veteran player and captain Brian Hollywood Matthews said it is a heartwarming moment for him to have been a part of a special group of players.
The association did well to put it together, and the coaches really
put in a yeoman's effort to get everything out of the players, and we could only respond it. And I'm just happy with what we got. It was, the goal would have been better, but I mean, just to get basketball in a whole to this level. I've been playing for forever, and I've never reached to this level for Antigua and Barbuda. So it's actually gratifying for me as well personally. But just being a part of a bunch of guys that just wanted to just let it all out on the floor and just leave it there and let the nation be proud. It was really nice, and I'm really proud of being it.
The Bulldogs won by an average margin of 33.5 points against Bermuda, Montserrat, Barbados and Suriname before losing to Guyana.
Veteran rider Patrick Husbands captured the $120,000 Canadian Charlie Barley Stakes with favorite Ride Comet as he rode a triple on Saturday's 13-race Queen's Plate card at prestigious Woodbine. Going a mile for the 3-year-olds in race 3, the Barbadian combined with the Mark Case-trained Bakeholt to trounce the field by 2 3/4 lengths in a time of 1 minute 32.24 seconds. Woodbine's Robert Geller has the call.
With a healthy break, El Tormenta by 3 lengths, Elusive Mischief second, 1.5 away in third placing, Blue Blood shedding flight deck from Taylor Vienna, Rider Comet second last, and Mark Tree on the inside. About 7 lengths covers the entire field. And racing towards the 3/8, El Tormenta still piling it on, leads by 4 lengths. Elusive Mischief is second. Blue Blood gliding forward. On the inside came Flight Deck from Taylor Vienna. Rider Comet second last, and Mark Tree on the inside. Down the lane in the Charlie Barley. El Tormenta still the one to catch, out by about 3 lengths. Elusive Mischief in second. And trying to run home is Rider Comet down the extreme outsiders like a bullet coming now. And Rider Comet and Patrick Husbands racing after El Tormenta. El Tormenta challenged quickly by Rider Comet, who swept to the front and racing away with the Charlie Barley. Rider Comet by almost 3 lengths, El Tormenta.
And that's the sport. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This month on Caribbean Passport, we travel the region taking in Grenada Spice Mass, Barbados Crop Over, Antigua Summer Festival, and so much more, all coming up on this station. Again, the major developments of this day: Trinidad and Tobago's controversial anti-terrorism legislation passed unanimously. And in sport, FIFA banned St. Vincent and the Grenadines Football Federation boss Vinal Coombs from all activities related to the sport for the 2 years, after investigations revealed that he sold tickets for 2014 FIFA World Cup profits. Have yourself a good night.